Welcome to Deep Look, Ultiworld's weekly show about the current state of Ultimate, coming to you live on YouTube. It is Tuesday, December 17th. I'm Ultiworld senior editor and Deep Look host, Keith Rayner, and I'm joined by friend of the show, frequent guest, and in this case, a pinch hitter, an injury sub. We give him one of these. Edward Stevens coming in, one of our editors and senior staff writers for Charlie, who's out sick. I apologize. I'm also under the weather, so I may not sound my best, but we're going to soldier on, folks, because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. But first off, Edward, how are we doing? We got a lot of stuff been going on. Glad to have you on right in the smack dab middle of 12 Days of College Ultimate.
I feel like this is one of the newsiest, busiest Decembers at Ulti World in a while.
I don't know why that is. Usually the end of the year doesn't come with so much stuff going on, but we've got plenty to talk about. There's been the Discord has been extremely active over the past week or two. It's been a lot of fun, but we've also got some fun stuff that's been cooking up. Last Friday, dropped some new videos on YouTube. Some unlucky moments for Friday the 13th. Unlucky for one side means lucky for the other. There was, of course, the mermaid catch, an iconic moment with Tina Alamelek making the catch with her ankles, I guess you could say, against Dartmouth in UCSD's upset win, and one of the great national championship finals we'll probably ever see, one of the most dramatic games. And then you were heavily involved providing the audio commentary for a series of odd events between Colorado and Brown from the 2022, what was that, Smoky Mountain Invite final?
Yeah, it was the Smoky Mountain Invite final between Brown and Colorado. And unlike that Dartmouth UCSD game, which had a lot of eyes on it, I was the only Ulti-World eyes on the field for the Colorado Brown game. We have the video of the full game in our game library for subscribers. But yeah, we broke out the weird moment from the final. I wrote about it in the tournament recap, and then I went on Send the Fields to discuss it. There was a bizarre moment where essentially Colorado convinced Cal Nightingale, who, by the way, just won a national championship with Brown. So this was maybe part of his hero arc. This was his hero origin story. But Cal Nightingale was convinced by one or several players on Colorado that he had thrown a pass to himself when he had not actually done so. And he just accepted the call, didn't consult with anybody, placed the disc on the ground. Our video editor, Lindsay Sue, made a brilliant edit of the entire sequence, which ended with Colorado, who had kind of gaslit Cal into believing he'd thrown a pass to himself. They ended on Universe Point by actually turning the disc over, throwing a pass to themselves. It was insane.
It's just made so much sweeter by that. It's kind of funny on its own. I mean, the two players, I don't even think they, sometimes two players on the field do look really similar, or they're similar height, build, and they have the same accessories on, and maybe you get them confused. But that was not necessarily the case here. Like, it was just, I don't know what happened in that moment on the Colorado side to be like, you just threw that to yourself, when it obviously is not the case. I don't know. Very strange moment. But it ended up giving us some pretty good fodder, certainly for Send the Fields. But now the wider Ulti-World audience can enjoy the sweet video. Great work from both you and video editor Lindsay Sue.
Yeah, go check out the clip if you haven't done so on YouTube. It's probably trending near the top of our main page. Watch the Dina Mermaid catch again. I know that one's a much more famous moment, but yeah, both of those videos. But yeah, if you want a good laugh, go watch the Smoky Mountain Gaslight video of Colorado versus Brown. It's one of the strangest things I've ever seen on the field.
And if you want to make sure you don't miss great content like that, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Hit the subscribe button, slap a like on there, while you're enjoying the podcast. We appreciate all the thumbs up, really helps us out. But Edward, you're going to be on the hot seat because we're going to jump in with some trivia this week. All right, Edward, we're going to be playing a little guess the teammate. Guess the teammate. So we usually do guess the player, but I'm actually going to give you different players that this player has competed with on their team, and we'll see if you can, kind of get which exact player might be somebody who's played with all of these different players on their team. Do you think you can handle this task?
Not only, well, I don't know if I can get it right, but I would sit here and do this for a full day. This sounds like the most fun trivia format I've ever heard.
I'm going to be honest. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I'm willing to try it. I think we should give it a shot, and we'll see if it's too hard, too easy. But this could be a worthwhile pursuit. So now with like the existence of Ulti Dash Verse, you really could kind of do some sort of Kevin Bacon style connect the players game. So maybe this will see if that's an option for folks to waste some time over their winter breaks or whatnot. But so I'm going to give you first. I'm going to give you 3 teammates this person has played with, and you can let me know when you need a new teammate added to the list. Okay. So your first 3 teammates are Claire Chastain, Leanne Hoffman, and Manu Cardenas.
Claire Chastain, Leanne Hoffman, Manu Cardenas. All right, so we've got a little Revo, Molly Brown, Brute Squad, maybe Chicago Nemesis going on. I'm going to need at least one more teammate before I can start to zero in on who it could be.
All right, I'll give you Claire Trope.
Claire Trope could also be Brute Squad. So I feel like I want to get with somebody who has been on both Brute Squad and Molly Brown. Wait, quick clarification question, Keith. Does this include World's rosters or is this USAU club? What's the scope of the teammates here?
Any formal competition, so I'll extend it to WIFDIF and semi-pro competition as well. I won't do any like party tournaments, like no like Tokai Super Team or something like that.
Okay. How far are we willing to go with the teammates before you just give me the answer?
I got a list, so I'll exhaust the list. I'm gonna add
right.
Sophie Knowles and Lisa Pick-Caithley to the list. So far we've got Claire Chastain, Leanne Hoffman, Manu Cardenas, Claire Trope, Sophie Knowles, and Lisa Pick-Caithley.
I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling really good about zeroing in on Molly Brown and Brute Squad. Although I think Lisa P played a little bit of Revo, and Vale played Riot maybe with Claire Trope while she was still there. I'm not sure, but I want to stick in the Brute Squad, Molly Brown range. And who made that transition one way or the other? Keith, I'm really blanking here. Is the chat giving us any help whatsoever?
No, the chat did come up with the name 7 Degrees of Brett Matsuka for this game. Thanks, Jacob, for that suggestion. Do you need some more names here?
7 Degrees of Ron Kubalanza. Yeah, give me 2 more names, and then I might give up.
All right, I'm gonna help get you right back on the right track here. Elizabeth Mosquera and Yina Cartagena.
All right, so we're looking for somebody who's picked up and played with Revo. Gotta be. Because Leanne also did a stint on Revo, if I'm not mistaken, briefly. I guess I'm going to go Valeria Cardenas.
That is a good guess. It is not the player we're looking for. I've got a guess for Jesse Schaffner and Opie. Also, someone seconding your Ron Kubalanza. If I add Fleur Colertz, does that help you at all, or does that just give you more of the same info? I do think that gives you one specific piece.
It's Lev Kovalchik. The answer is Lev Kovalchuk.
I bet you that Levka qualifies for this, but it is not Levka. Do you got any other ideas? I think Levka would make this list. Although maybe she didn't play with Claire Trope.
How about Cami Groom?
Another good one. Still looking for that answer though. You got any other ones?
I'm out. I'm dry. I'm terrible.
More think Colombian here. Kayla Heldon is another one that we're getting from the chat.
Okay, thinking Colombian. So there's Jimena Montaña. There's Aleja Torres. Who's played with all of them? I think I'm going to go with Jimena Montaña.
That not the right Colombian. All right, it's copy. I thought for sure you were going to guess Manji, but it is Laura Ospina who we're looking for here. But you did a very admirable job. Like I think that you probably picked 2 or 3 people who actually might have played with all the players that we listed. I'd have to go back and look, but that's I think one of the challenges in making the game is how do you find one that feels exclusive to that player, especially unless they played for like 5 or 6 different teams. So I wanted to give you somebody current, somebody who's still playing, but isn't like hasn't been around for like 10, 20 years of playing or whatever. So we'll keep working on this game, but we got some good guesses. Kayla Helton was a good guess from the chat. May actually qualify as well with playing with Claire Trope on like the U.S. national team. The Revo 2019 and Revo 2020 years were somewhat different. There was some. I don't know if Kayla Helton, but she's played with Lisa B in other environments, so Kayla Helton might actually hit the mark here too. So good job, everybody, coming up with some good stuff, and maybe we'll give this another run with a harder list later. But Edward, admirable performance, and we will move on to talking about the U24 teams. The roster for the U.S. national teams just recently dropped, and we got a chance to look over them. We put out our guesses. You, myself, and Charlie all put out full 72-person selection groups. We didn't organize them into teams because I think that's unreasonable to ask us who's going to play mixed versus on women's or open division squads. But we did come up with our full lists, and we were decently accurate. I think I think we all got in the 20s. I'm sorry to inform you, Everett. I think you trailed behind Charlie, who was our most accurate picker. I think he beat me by 1 player. But altogether, I'm sure most people care more about the teams than how we did. So when you look at these under 24 rosters, like what are the first thoughts that jump to your mind? Is there anything that you saw that you were surprised by or felt like what was remarkable about them?
A lot of things jump to mind. Number one, I feel like we do this every time there's a U.S. national team selection. These really do look like 3 gold medal winning teams. It's hard to officially confirm that without knowing the rosters with the rest of the world as well. But like these are incredible. I mean, when you have I can't believe that you get to like get Jolie Krebs and Devin Quinn and Leah Schwartz and Trout Waybright on the same team, just to like name a few of the players on the women's team. I mean, if we could pull up the women's division team first, just to like look at this absolute, like the 27 Yankees had Murderers Row. I feel like this is Murderers Rows and Rows and Rows. This is such a good squad. I don't know if it has any weak points whatsoever.
I feel like I'm
that I
so used to that.
Yeah, I know. And I haven't watched Zaza Gelfand play, although if she's anywhere near as good as her sister, she definitely belongs. And Sophie Harvey was a bit of a new name for me, but the rest of these players are just beasts.
It is a really strong group, of course. I think I stand by my original statements that I think it will be hard to take this group of players and managed to put together a 24-person roster that I didn't think would be at least gold medal contenders, if not favorites, in the women's division. Like, I think you could reverse pick the team. Like take the 24 people you want to cut the most and put them on the roster, and I still think we'd be like, wow, this is a pretty good team. Uh, I just think that the talent pool is extremely deep, but I think the women's division roster has the most surprises to me. The most players who maybe aren't big names or that we weren't looking at, you myself, and Charlie, as major players in the field, and we always go in expecting a couple of those picks. There's always going to be some players who had great tryouts or fit a role really well, or maybe we aren't familiar enough with their game. But there were more, I think, on the women's division side, maybe than any of the other squads that ended up. There were players that we thought had a shot that ended up making the team. Maybe that's a player like Milo Brown or Ella Bolin. Uh, but then there's a lot of young players on this team with Brown, with Kylie McRoy, with Zaza Gelfin, you mentioned Ella Widmeyer. Those are all players going to their freshman seasons. You have a couple of players who are going to their sophomore seasons, like Grace Maroon and Kelly Tam, I believe, is also going to be a sophomore. So Shigal Gelfand. This team is really young altogether. But you got some players who, Eugenia Garza from Minnesota. You mentioned Sophie Harvey from Michigan. These are players who I think are a little more off the radar. Jocelyn Sun from Chicago. She's played at a couple different schools. Uh, Lily Terpstroff coming from Utah. These are not necessarily like the power programs that we're used to just seeing. Oh, it's UNC. Oh, it's Colorado. And yeah, the team has some of that, but I see a lot of that, and I see no Stanford, for example.
Right.
It's interesting how the rosters actually shook out.
I think you and I both had Sage McKinley Smith and Harper Bear as players that we thought were going to make the cut. And there's one more. I don't know if snub's the right word, but I don't know how you have a 6 foot tall lefty handler with the complete skill throwing set that Quincy Booth has and not put her on a team. I mean, this team will probably win gold, but how do you say no to that?
Well, they did. There were a couple players that all three of you, myself, and Charlie, I believe, had on our rosters. Some people who also fit the description of tall thrower that you mentioned, Mia Beeman Weber and Carly Atwell. Also, I would say fit that mold. And we're not selected. And all three of us had picked them. Emily Posey from Vermont might perhaps be the biggest name player who ended up not on the roster. And this is all excluding Rachel Tang. To my understanding, they withdrew themselves from being selected. So they might have been selected anyway, or they might have been selected if that hadn't taken the case. I think all indications are that they would have. Pretty much everybody who was returning for the team and tried out was taken. So I would be surprised if Chang would have gotten cut. But they to my knowledge, opted out. We did all pick Rachel Chang to make the team, and they are obviously not on the roster for that reason. But those other players you mentioned, Bear and McGinley Smith, those are I guess the snubs in Miu and Charlie's eyes as a combined group.
Who's getting the rock for this team? O line. Who are they centering to? Is it Trout? Is it Jolie? Is it Chagall?
It's an interesting question. I do think you're going to see Jolie in a very central offensive role. I think Leah Schwartz is also a player who people are going to feel really comfortable with being in a touch heavy position. Emma Williamson, another returner who is a handler. I think she often plays D line handler, but I wouldn't be surprised if she's quarterbacking the D line with someone like Shigal Gelfin. Those are players who I think are going to be in throwing heavy roles. I think you could put Trout in that role, and I think I was surprised by how frequently she was getting the disc in uh, as a thrower last time she was on a national team. But I don't feel like that emphasizes Trout's strengths as an athlete. I think you want Trout in a playmaking position as best you can.
Yeah, and I feel like whoever you center the disc to, if you got, Lauren Cadu, Emily Kemp, Devin Quinn downfield, it doesn't really matter. Ella Bolin, for that matter. I mean, these are premier receivers.
Yeah, the deep game is going to be covered well, I think, with this group. I think they're going to be making a lot of plays downfield with the size and athleticism they have, and then some really big throwers. And apologies, Trout uses he they pronouns, not she. That was my mistake. This is a deep group. I still think that, to me, one of the girding storylines for them is just how young this team is. I'm a bit surprised by it. I don't know if it's I posited the theory that it's maybe a bit of a 6-year effect. There are players who are stars in college who are not eligible for this team because they are fifth, 6-year players. They're too old, and that is kind of making room for players who are coming through the national team program at a younger age and denying space for players who would be growing into roles as key players as like juniors and seniors in college that might otherwise be making this team. That's just a theory, though. I don't really know that for sure, but I do think it's surprising how many of these players are still early on in their college careers or just starting them.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Joshua Gelfand, who's not in college yet. We've got Milo Brown. I know you're very familiar with them because they're coming to your program at Wesleyan as a freshman. Ella Widmeyer as well. And I think that's probably a good transition over to the mixed team, where I think one of the names that is going to stand out is, yet again, we're seeing her on national team after national team after national team. It can't be that long, honestly, till she makes one of the prime national teams. But Chloe Hakimi, who remains incredible and is not yet in college. One of the big names on this mixed list. What do you see when you look at this mixed roster, Keith?
Yeah, Chloe gave me on her second U24 team before getting out of high school is pretty wild. This group, they have a couple of returners with players like Erica Birdsong, but they also have a pretty exciting group. I think that the mixed team is the most likely to be dominant. That's been the case in years prior, but they've got players who are coming off of really big club seasons like Micah Glass, Elise Friedman, Anton Orm, Zeppelin Ronig. These are players who just had fantastic club seasons. And how about, speaking of big club seasons, parlaying into U24 appearance, how about Kyle Suaflo? Coming in from D3 McAllister, had a great year with Dragon Thrust, along with his twin brother, and now going to represent the 7,500 club abroad for USA Mixed. An exciting pick there. Aaron Bartlett, of course, I can't leave off the list, and Tori Gray of big time club players who are now going to be part of this U.S. national team.
Yeah, Flat Earthers about to have a big win. They've been taking L's in Antarctica, but they're going to get some wins over in the UK this summer. McAllister Flat Earth Ultimate. For those of you who don't know, yeah, I mean, this is probably the biggest gold medal favorite team of all of them. I mean, we've got Anton Orm, who has been on the college podium and is playing incredibly well in club. We've got Graham Cunningham, who is not one of the bigger known names, but played at Ohio State and was really strong in her first year for Scandal this year. Naomi Fina, who, when she's healthy, is the kind of cutter who can make Dawn Helton look like, or Dawn Colton, excuse me, make it look like she's a little slow on defense, which is saying something. You've got handlers who can cut downfield like Micah Glass and Caroline Stone. You've got premier downfield players in Abby Schultz. I don't know what more you want. One thing I love to see was two of the big Alabama Huntsville players, Michael Poe and Isaiah Mason. Michael Poe is the bigger name. He does the flashier stuff on offense. A lot of big throws, a lot of big skies. He also has exceptional style in terms of what he wears while he plays Ultimate. And then Isaiah Mason, who's one of like the hardest nosed defenders person to person you'll see. I heard he had a great tryout. So really happy to see both of them make the list from a lesser known program in Alabama Huntsville.
Very, very cool that they'll get to be teammates on Team USA. Also, a shout out to Raekwon Atkins, a player who I was very impressed with coming into both the college season and the club season. He like started out as a practice player for Revolver, ends up on the team by the time that they've reached nationals. He's playing well, and then in like the span of 10 days, gets announced to be playing on both the U.S. beach national team and the under 24 team. And this is coming off of his freshman season in college, and I think is about to go into a sophomore year where Oregon is going to be, according to our staff picks that just dropped last week, a title favorite. Maybe, I mean, I think they were the only universal pick in D1 men's to make semis or something like that. So there's a lot of Oregon hype, and Raekwon Atkins is right at the center of it. This is got to be a cool 10 days for Raekwon right now.
But one other note I want to make, shout out Declan Kervick for making the team. He, if you watch the ESPN series tryouts, he was one of the featured players during the last U24 cycles, and he got broadcast not making the team. So this is a nice makeup for that not snub, but I'm sure that wasn't like the happiest moment to be included in like an ESPN broadcast.
This also, I'm just thinking this now. This might be the blackest team that's ever gone out to like one of the major USA Ultimate international events. They got a lot of black players on this team with Eric Birdsong and Raekwon Atkins, Michael Poe, Isaiah Mason, Zeppelin Ronick. I'm just rolling over the list. That's something that I think that USA Ultimate has been criticized for in the past, and this team does not look like that. And that I think also just speaks to the caliber of players that are coming out and showing out right now. I want to look at the open division roster as well. Our last group here. And Edward, this roster, impressive as the others. What do you think? Does it stand up to what the kind of dominance we're expecting from the mixed and women's division teams?
Yeah, I mean, they got all the names you expect to see. Peter Borth, Tobias Brooks, Justin Burnett, Dexter Clyburn, Xavier Fusat. Wait a minute.
Control F?
Where? Fusat? I don't... Yeah, I mean, this is a great team. These are great players. I think Xavier Fusat is easily a top 7 player in college. Maybe not easily. There's a lot of competition out there. Easily top 7 among players who are age eligible for U24s this year. I want to celebrate everybody on this list, but I'm on the record. I think it's a crime that Fusat, after the club season he had, after the last 3 college seasons that he's had, is not on this team. We know exactly what he can do. He will supercharge your offense in every way. He also plays just absolute shutdown defense. What are we doing here, USAU?
All right, I wasn't going to start here, but this, for those not deep in the Discord with us, the Xavier Fusat conversation has been raging. I mean, he did have really one of the few players who maybe played better in the club season, like had even a higher standing in the club season than the college season. He was really good for Texas, but he was like Double White's best player. And from all accounts, it sounds like had a good tryout, but didn't make the team. I'm planning to talk. I don't know if Charlie will be able to join us, but I actually want to talk a little bit more about this. There's a pattern of Texas players not making the team, not making these national teams. And I'm hoping we can talk about that more with the subscribers or subscriber bonus. So if you're not a subscriber, you want to listen to that, make sure to subscribe and join us. We'll be doing our conversation live in the Discord, so you can chat with us. But this has been generating a lot of conversation in the Discord. She's a very talented player. And, there simply are more talented players than there are slots. Somebody really good is not going to make the team. That's just the fact of the matter. But it was surprising for it to be Fusat. But the group that we do have, I'm trying to think of the returners off the top of my head with Felix Morin coming back, Rutledge Smith, he's back. Josh Singleton is back as well. Um, Will Brandt getting the call is great. He's obviously been an elite player and has found other outlets to show that, but obviously has played in D3, and that prevents him from getting as many chits to match up with the best. But I think he's kind of proven his point at this point. The truck stop had a nice run here with Miles Grovick and Isaac Lee getting on the team. Former truck stop Aaron Bartlett also he got into with the mixed team as well. So truck stop getting some nice representation. A guy that that I'm excited to see when I look at the bottom of this roster and I see the actual bottom of this list, not the bottom of the roster, or metaphorically speaking. I see Grayson Trowbridge, who is a dogged defender for UNC and felt like exactly the kind of guy who coaches would fall in love with, the way that he plays. Fits in well on a team full of superstars because you don't have to give him the rock. You just have him go out there and do his thing, and he knows how to do that really well. Robin Vickers-Baxdorf, not a college player, but looks really, really good for Revolver this year. So cool to see players who aren't playing the college scene get a chance to shine and show people what they can do. And then Will Wendgell, who's another one of the young players. I think he's going to his second year with Cincinnati, but playing coming out of a community where they again don't get as many chances to play in front of a big stages, and he'll get a chance to show off. I mean, he's a big body guy, play with machine, but I think he'll look pretty good with the U.S. national team as a big deep threat.
Yeah, I think the story of this team is, deep threat or no for Will Wendell. I think the story of this team is going to be the defense. I mean, can you imagine you put, I'm thinking of 8 guys right now. I'm going to have to pare it down to 7, but give me Robin Vickers-Baxdorf, Grayson Trowbridge, Zeke Thorson, Will Wendell, Justin Burnett, Dexter Clyburn, and should I go Eli Freed or Oscar
You
Graf?
got to take Eli Freed, right?
We'll go Eli Freed. Put those 7 on a D line. Who's scoring more than 2 points a game? Honestly. Like, who's completing more than 5 passes more than 6 times in the game in a row? Like, that's such a good mix of defenders, such a good set of matchup versus zone defenders. This is going to be one of the greatest defensive teams ever assembled, I think. At least at the U24 level.
I think of the teams, I think this team, we talked about the deep threats on some of the other teams. I think this is the team with the most loaded group of deep cutters. When you look at Gavin Abramson and Miles Grovick, Paul Krennic, Alex Nelson, and Wendell, like that is a nasty group of bigs. Justin Burnett plays way above his size too. He's an above the rim player through and through. They're gonna have a crazy group of deep receivers to target when they're boosting it. So this group is going to be really fun to watch. I think.
And Toby Brooks is going to be putting it up.
They've got no shortage of shooters either, so I think it'll be interesting. So we've looked at the U24s. There's also I went in and kind of broke down some of my thoughts in greater detail on the site. If you want to check out that article, our subscribers can take a look at that and see some of the returners, which colleges are the most represented, what some of the returners might be bringing to the table, some of the stubs. You can take a look at the article. It'll be linked in the description. But I want to get a chance to talk about some of the biggest things. This is our last episode of the year for 2024. We will be off for the winter break after this. But I want to talk about some of the biggest moments. We'll be doing our 2024 superlative, looking at the best games, the biggest plays, who won the year. So Edward and I will be sussing that out here. And where do we want to start? Which superlative do we want to start with looking at the list?
There's the part that's closest to my heart, which is always best game.
Best game. All right. So let's take a look at the best games. I want to kind of like look at the kind of consideration set. Which ones jump out to you? It's like, okay, obviously we got to include this.
I mean, we had all three of those college semis that went down to Universe Point or came down to last minute collapses, you could say. Stanford versus Vermont and UNC versus Colorado in women's, and then of course the three-peat breaker, uh, Cal Poly Slow over UNC Darkside in men's. So those immediately jump out. Uh, Maybe because I was at those. I wasn't at every one of the great games on the list, but those, and then from the club championships, uh, it wasn't close, but I think you got to say something for that Rhino versus Pony game as well, the men's final.
Interesting that you went there. There aren't really any club games that quite stood out to me for that way. In that way, I think when we talked about the best game from Club Nationals on the pod, I thought maybe like um, the Shame Dragon Thrust game was pretty dramatic. But I think that those don't really stand up to me. The first game that pops into my mind when I think of this year is the women's division final from the World Ultimate Championships, Colombia versus USA. That to me was the defining game of the season, of the year. So to me, that's the first thing that like jumps into my head. But other games, one of the most talked about games this year was a game that I hadn't really seen. I had to sit down and watch it to catch up. And that was the World Beach Ultimate Club Championships, the Open Division final, which was Humila Swag and Jet Set. I think was the team name, uh, like a Belgian group. Uh, Crazy game, huge plays, epic greatest in the middle of it. A huge Callahan. I mean, it was a crazy game. But to me, it was still ultimately the best beach game. Just can't stand up against the best grass games for me. Japan versus Belgium in the Open Division of WC, and then a game that I personally was on the call for that stood out for me: the boys' final between SEPTA and Smoke, Philly and Oakland, respectively, at YCCs. That was a crazy game. And producer Lindsay Sue, I think, brought up the women's division final from Windmill, Jinx and Root. I think that was Windmill. But it's really some fantastic games. What's at the top of your list then? What do we need to crown as the game of the year? Chat, you can feel free to give your thoughts here.
Look, I don't want to get too cute with this. It's the women's final from Worlds, Colombia versus the US. And I would love to baggage in, maybe like a sidecar and a motorcycle. Their previous game, I think it was in the power pools. Both of those games were spectacular to watch. Absolutely some of the highest level ultimate, multi-year narrative arcs playing into it, star level players, physical, comes down to the wire. I loved every moment of it.
I think I'm with you. I think that pure quality. Maybe you could put some of these other games next to them, particularly from the same event, Japan and Belgium. Really a high flying game, clash of styles. But when you got the title on the line and you got the two heavyweights going at it, it just adds so much more gravitas to your game. And then you get the fact that they had also played a super exciting game prior to the tournament. That's just gonna heads up. It's just hard. You can't beat that. So to me, Colombia, USA, it was the appointment viewing for the season. Like everybody knew this was the game to watch. It delivered in spades. I know it wasn't exactly the prettiest game, but it was sure a lot of fun to watch for a game that was super gritty and physical. So I think I would go with Columbia USA as well for my best game. Let's take a look at some of the biggest news stories from the year, and see what we think might be the biggest news of the year. I've got a couple ideas for you, Edward. So we just had new USA Ultimate CEO on. So USA Ultimate CEO change. That could be one. Uh, Also recent, LA Astra going to the PUL. Target. Nobody saw that coming. Big upset vibes with that one. How about the UFA getting the new name, going from the AUDL to the UFA, bringing the Frisbee brand officially and legally back to Ultimate. UCF had a new club format. there's some ideas for you. Any other big news you can think of?
I would lump in. We had kind of a whole episode devoted to it, and it kind of reflects my preferences as a reporter. But there were so many high-profile club transfers this year that I think, kind of as a grouping, the high-profile club transfers could be included into it as well.
Oh, so what do you feel like is the biggest story of those for the year to you? What's the biggest news item?
For me, and it's news in the sense that we know who it is now, but we also knew it was going to happen beforehand. But the new USAU CEO, and I hate to be so North America centric with this take, but USA Ultimate is a huge organization. We have an outsized influence on the sport, and getting a different executive level decision maker and thinker that is guiding everything the organization does has a massive impact. I loved getting to listen in on the interview you and Charlie did with him a couple weeks ago, and I think it's a big deal.
I think again we're going to be in agreement here. Kevin Arlenbach, who again you can listen to our episode where we actually sat down with him and got a chance to talk with him. That's back from early December. On the second, we dropped that episode if you haven't had a chance. But there's part of it that's like this is going to be bigger 2025 news when we actually start to see the change maybe have some effects. So maybe in that way, you could argue that maybe it's the UFA rebrand. Uh, but to me, that's a new coat of paint. It didn't change a lot about the league as is. The change of disc, but all the changes themselves were kind of minor. Uh, so to me, I think I would give it to the new USA Ultimate CEO. I agree with you. Highly influential organization. This is going to be an important individual in deciding some of the future parts of Ultimate. So this to me would be the biggest news, even if the most shocking. I still would go with Los Angeles to the BUL. That would be the biggest shocker, but not necessarily the biggest news in and of itself. All right,
Your
I want to move us
eyebrows
to
are
our next
still
category.
raising now. Your eyebrows are still raising over the LA to the PUL news.
Shout out to Christian in the chat who caught me that slacking here with my bold prediction to earlier in the year. We're gonna have our bold prediction show coming up after our little winter break here. But last year I predicted that Canada would fail to medal at Worlds, and they got me on that one. But let's look at speaking of achievements like medaling at Worlds. Let's look at the best achievements from 2024. I'll give you a couple of ideas here, and then you can add on again, Edward. So
Okay.
we got a couple players who won their second player of the year awards. A very rare feat. Claire Trope, the first ever to do it in the club division, to win player of the year in the same division twice. Dawn Colton gets a two podies. Along with Dawn Colton, Pleiades gets their four titles. Unbelievable. Uh, what else? What else do you see jumps out to you?
Okay. Number one, I think it's incredible that Dawn and Claire beat the virtually undefeated force known as voter fatigue to get second player of the year. So that's pretty special. I also want to shout out, this is maybe a little backhanded, but Detroit Mechanics, you did it. You broke the streak. You won a game. Not bad. Speaking of broken streaks, Carleton beating UNC was a big achievement when it happened. I know Vermont did it a couple times after that. And actually, those are not my achievements of the year. I actually have one that I think is the best, and that's because it's the kind of thing that virtually doesn't happen anymore, and we may never see the like of it again. And that is Lev Kovalchuk going to Windmill, playing with two teams. And the Windmill format was they would alternate rounds between the single gender division formats one round and the mixed division gender formats the next round. And Levka played on the super team, I think, in mixed, and played on Jinx for women's, and played every single round of the Windmill tournament, and played a lot of points within each round, and won both tournaments. I think that is the most spectacular, wonderful achievement maybe in my lifetime. I love that so much.
I like a creative approach. Levka's obviously got a pretty strong resume, but doing it both at one tournament, that is pretty unheard of. And is mostly impossible at most tournaments because the games are happening simultaneously. But yeah, that never really happens. That's a pretty good one. Sprocket reaching the mixed final. France U20 winning gold in the women's division. That was a pretty sweet one. There's definitely some options. We had the suggestion of Rhino's near flawless game. I'm not out here to give near achievements. They won a title. That's cool. They did it in great fashion. We should applaud them for that. But you got to get the perfect game to get the credit for it, right? You got to go turnover free to get the credit for it. I don't know. That's my opinion on that. Um, I I think if I had to pick, it's tempting to pick Detroit Mechanics winning a game because that just takes so many years to get all the losing for so long. I mean, whew. And then they end it. But come on, I got to do Pleiades 4X, right? I mean, 4 titles. Yeah, and this was the year that everybody was like, "This, they're finally gonna fall apart." They're down 4 goals in semis. It looks like it's curtains. They lost to Carleton. The streak was broken. Every reason to doubt this team, and this group of players is like, nah. We're doing it. The legacy is still ours. Four W's, and in a time when it feels like it's impossible to really build a dynasty, they've done it. I got to go with the 4X 4X Pleiades titles. Bring up the loading jersey with the 4 out of 7 stars filled in. That's my pick. What about you?
I mean, Levka's number one on the podium. Give me some mix of Pleiades, the 2 France gold medal wins in international competition, and I think we haven't shouted out the Minnesota wind chill. I think that was incredible the way they played throughout the playoffs in the UFA. So they're up there as well.
All right, quite a list of achievements. We got more superlatives coming up for you. We'll talk about the biggest controversy of 2024 amongst some other awards that will be given out here on the show. We're going to take a brief break. On the other side, we'll catch you for the final superlatives and the end of the episode, Deep Book 2024. I think we both have pretty high spice tolerances. I think we could make it through.
That one's got a little heat.
Yeah, it's sticking with you a little bit.
It's hot.
That's happening. That's happening here.
Nutritional yeast, canola oil.
Oh.
And there's a little ghost pepper powder in there too.
Oh yeah. Oh my god, it's hard to talk. It's hard to talk. Woo.
Welcome to Deep Look Hot Twos.
Pray for us.
Yeah. We are back. Deep Look, Edward Stevens and Keith Rayner. And we are going through the best of 2024, marching on through our superlatives in our final episode of the year. And our next category here is going to be biggest upset. Everybody loves an underdog, especially the two of us. But I think the fans do too. So let's talk about some of the big surprises to win this year. And a couple of them we've mentioned already. France over USA in the women's division of the under 20 World Championships. It's definitely a good one. You mentioned the wind chill winning it all in the AUDL. I don't think, or in the UFA, excuse me. It's been a year, Keith. It's been a whole year. Come on. There we go. There we go. The
Got
buzzers, we dusted it off. That's a good one. Austin Torch, shout out to Torch making the playoffs this year in the PUL. And maybe one of my favorite suggestions from the Discord. Shrimp over the haters. Shrimp getting the big W over the haters. Can't see me. I don't know if we're bringing that back, but what do you think, Edward?
I mean, I love Shrimp over the haters as a tagline, but were there really any haters? Or was it just you and Charlie?
I mean, I didn't think they would be good. I'll be honest.
I actually do have one from Club, and it's an upset in the sense that it's kind of unfathomable that it could have happened. But regionals, Mid-Atlantic, Washington, D.C. Rally, taking down Philadelphia AMP, who have essentially birthright citizenship at USAU Nationals, somehow were told not to fly to San Diego this year because Rally beat them in the final. I think that's one of the biggest club game stories of the year.
Topical reference. Yeah, that's a good one. It's like, how do you bring in Amp's streak ending? That is, Rally obviously was a good team, so like on its face, it's not really a crazy upset. But when like you go back to the beginning of the year, who was picking Amp to not make nationals? That is a pretty wild one when you actually size it all up. I think in the Discord somebody brought up UMass's pre-quarters loss, them getting knocked out by NC State in D1 men's division play. Another D1 men's division game that felt really big at the time. Minnesota, just who is it? Was it UMass that they crushed in?
They beat Pittsburgh.
Pitt. They just were awesome in that game. So that's one that stands out to me. I mean, how about Stanford's run at D1 championships? I mean, I think they were kind of seen as underdogs for a lot of that way, and they didn't finish it off, but getting the big win over Vermont feels like a pretty nice upset to me. What do you think?
I had Ruckus as the no doubt going to win it all favorites heading into that tournament, and then they were up. I can't remember how big they were up before Stanford came back, but it was significant. Yeah, that Stanford upset is huge. As good as Stanford were, I think Stanford over Vermont might be it.
I know you were shouting out the wind chill for best achievements. Are you going to take them for biggest upset?
Maybe. Who did they upset on the way, though? Did they have to beat the Empire? I can't remember the entire path of who made championship weekend at this point. I know they beat Raleigh, Carolina, excuse me, but that didn't feel like a massive upset.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I see what you're saying in the like individual matchups, but I think looking at their season as a whole and saying like people did not think this team, even though I personally was hyped on them to start the season. To be clear, I was like, this team could run it back after last year and be really good, but I wasn't picking them over the Empire or Carolina or Salt Lake. But they did make the run, but to me, I think I got to go France over USA. Anytime you beat the USA, and that's big stuff, and you don't see a lot of teams do that, especially with these young players in the women's division. It's just such a rare accomplishment. I think that's the one I would take. But after that, I think our late entry with Stanford, it might be my second choice.
Do you take the U21 over the beach one for France?
Yeah, I do. I made my statement about beach. Just can't stand up to the best grass games in my mind. I'm a beach hater.
Humila
I literally am.
up in the
People make fun
comments
of
with
me for
pitchforks.
actually not liking the beach as a whole, let alone Beach Ultimate. But
True. I ultimately agree with you,
that's
although
my
I
opinion.
do want to throw in France Beach. Yep.
That's a good call. Good call. We'll come back to that because I got more France thoughts. Our biggest controversy of the year. We had some interesting controversies. I saw in the Discord somebody said that the competition is pretty tight for biggest controversy because we had some good ones this year. I think I will start with what to me was one of the big controversies, and that was Hungary versus Singapore at the under 20 World Championships. A like 3 hour game with an unbelievable amount of stoppages, like multiple spirit timeouts, post game suspensions. Like this was a train wreck of a game. You know, it's going to go down as all time example of bad leadership from these organizations to let this game get to this place. But that was definitely one of the most controversial events in my mind. The other one that comes to mind is uh, Mauricio's post after WUC about the Colombian and USA physicality level from US and uh, pretty coming at them pretty harshly for the level of play that they were bringing to the field. Those are the two of the big ones for me. What else jumps out to you?
I mean, everybody else can go home. It's Hungary versus Singapore. But if we're talking about second place, uh, I think another big kind of call-filled world game. I actually can't remember who they were playing, but the Canadian mixed team at Worlds had a
Mm.
rough couple of games there, and I can't remember exactly who they were playing. It's been so long. Um, Also, a lot of people are saying that UNC lost to Oregon in quarters. There were a couple of those fast count stall calls. Like,
How
what
could I
was going
forget?
on there? Yeah. There was so much going on in that college nationals that it was hard to keep track of it all. You know, we had to pack like 6 or 7 rounds into Saturday, and then we did quarters and semis on the same day, and we were, it was raining everywhere. But yeah, that was a big one. And then how about this? How about when Mephisto didn't play enough games to earn a bid for sectionals or to regionals and knocked a top 20 team in Amherst Sprout out of being able to go to regionals. They still did get to go because some teams dropped. But for a while, it looked like, Canadian team runs down to the USAU series without qualifying again and steals a bid.
Okay, yeah, that was pretty good. That was some pretty good drama too. I'll give that one credit as well. Uh, yeah, I can't believe I left off UNC over Oregon men's. The two calls to change that game. That's a big one. I've generally never will. I really shy away from saying a call decided a game. You know, Oregon Oregon had the disc and turned it over after the two calls. So I won't go that far, but whew, that was spicy. You've pretty much already crowned Hungary and Singapore the big winner here, right?
No doubt.
I think I have trouble disagreeing. But if I had to power rank the ones that we've mentioned, uh, I think I'm gonna go Mauricio over UNC Oregon and Sprout Mephisto last.
This is shocking to me, Keith. Can I tell you why?
Please.
It's because when you and I talked about the Mauricio moment right afterwards, you were making all kinds of apologies for his thing. You stuck up for his perspective that the US had been too physical, and I was like, "No, he's out of his mind saying this." And I feel like you've done a complete
Oh, wait.
180, flip-flopper. We're canceling you.
Yeah, but no. Let's take a step back. This is going to be the new biggest controversy. This is on the show. We're going to make a new one. No, I think that the response to his statement from other people and us discussing it warrants its position as the second most controversial. Not necessarily because what I think he said was so completely wrong. A lot of other people think it was horribly wrong, and maybe my opinion has evolved over that. instead of saying I'm a flip-flopper, what if that just means I'm a mature individual who considers things further and is willing to change their opinion when new information is brought to light? Like, that's all I'm saying. But no, I think the Hungary Singapore game is also first place in this category. How about a category with maybe focused on some of the on-field stuff that we're excited about? Best performance.
Yes.
So we're thinking individuals, teams that went out and just did something incredible over a short span of time. What jumps out to you as like we gotta include this in the category? And chat, please feel free to throw up some great performances as well.
Well, I mean, if we're talking teams, I feel like, I mean, you didn't want to call it best achievement, but I'm not sure how, if we're talking team performances, we can do better than Rhino's performance in the men's USA Club national final.
Yeah, that's definitely got to be on the list. I mean, that was so remarkable showing. And yeah, whatever credit I'm removing for not being a perfect game as an achievement, you can have the full credit for putting up a 2 turnover performance in which all of your turnovers came in 1 point. Yeah, that definitely up there. Um, Finney has the crazy what was it? Which if like 7 assists and
Well,
4 goals or something.
I think it was 6
that
and
was
4. It was huge.
It was some big numbers. Very impressive. JJ Gallion for Portland. We're going back to D3. Absolutely dominant. We had some crazy college performances this year. I'm actually going to pull up JJ Gallion's stat line from the college championships because it was otherworldly. There were 2 of those actually in the women's division. Claire Lee also had a crazy. I'm going to pull up both those. Okay, JJ Gallion, player of the year in D3. Here's the stat line. I'm going to hit you with this: 18 goals, leading the team. 43 assists, 13 blocks, 53 turnovers. But those are some big numbers. I also want to look at Claire Lee's because Claire Lee had for McAllister four goals, 28 assists, 43 Ds, ridiculous number, and 89 turnovers. When you're approaching triple digit turnovers, I'm not sure I can give you best performance, but that is a lot of blocks.
All right, I take your JJ Gallion and your Claire Lee and raise you 5 goals, 38 assists, 15 blocks for Jolie Krebs at D1 Nationals, which I think, considering that she played virtually every point and caught virtually every other pass, although shout out Melissa Torchio and Danielle Datler, who also did a lot of work for that SUNY Binghamton team. But yeah, Jolie Krebs getting that team to win 2 pool play games, despite, being the Metro East underdog, one of the greatest performances I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's pretty good. For all the crab heads who are celebrating February, it is there's never a bad time for the 4th of Jolie. Incredible player, had an incredible run. I'm glad I got all 3 of those in. Thank you. Please clap. How about the U.S. men's national team at WUC? I mean, that D line was just whipping teams.
Steamroller. Remember when we thought Japan had a chance? Remember those old days?
No. No. Who was foolish enough to come up with that idea? That was silly.
I thought Japan would score double digits. I really did.
I gotta say, I thought we'd get some like Steve from Summer Leagues in the chat. I feel like that always pops up. Danny Klein shout out Charlie Tantum, triple double with fewer than 10 turns at D3 Nationals. That's pretty impressive. 10 goals, assists, and blocks, or more, 10 plus in all those categories. And not hitting the over in turnovers is definitely a nice stat line. What do you think?
It was tantamount
best performance this
to
year?
a performance of the year.
Oh, excellent. Did we just have to make it a winner because of that wordplay right there?
No, I don't think we do. I don't think we can. If we're talking individuals, first off, shout out Sarah Jacobson with the triple double at Club Nationals for Sixers. But for me, it's down to either JJ Gallion or Jolie Krebs for individual performances, and for team, it's no question Portland Rhino Slam.
Yeah, but what if you had to pick between the two? What if I made you pick?
Jolie. Sorry, JJ.
No, what if I made you pick between the team and the individual category? If you only have
Oh,
one, what do you...
Give me Rhino by a hair over Jolie.
I gotta say, I think I feel the same way, and again, by a hair. We do love the dominating stylings of Jolie Krebs, but I also think Rhino's final is one for the ages too. So I think that's the way that I will fall on that as well. Tough call though. That was maybe the toughest pick thus far.
Producer Sue
right,
is losing their mind in the chat right now.
I'm not going to read that, but I'm being accused of flip flopping for saying you don't get credit for the not perfect game because it's not an achievement to get an almost perfect game. It is a great performance to absolutely dominate your incredibly decorated opponent in the final in that fashion. That is like you've had a great performance. You just don't get the achievement for not achieving the goal. You went out to if you set out to make 100 out of 100 baskets and you made 99 out of 100, I'd be like, wow, you shot really well. That was incredible. But you didn't achieve the goal of shooting 100 out of 100. I don't know. I don't feel like this is a crazy line in the sand to draw. All right, biggest moment of the year. This is different than biggest play because I don't want to step on the toes of our play of the year brackets that'll drop in January. But biggest moment of the year. So there could be some plays in here, but we're talking like these are the iconic moments that you'll remember from 2024. So stuff that jumps out to me as things that I'm gonna remember. I'm gonna remember Pleiades ending the streak. I'm gonna take Don Colton's catch to give Pleiades the comeback upset in semis. The hammer catch in the like showcase game to open WC from New Zealand. That was unbelievable. What were some of the other moments that stand out in the year for you? Like, I can't believe I just saw that happen.
Those are both really good. I mean, it's not so much I can't believe as I feel like the moments that I'm about to share kind of became so much bigger than the moment than they were. And that was Evan Lepler's call on the Cal Poly slow upset over UNC Darkside in semis to stop the UNC championship streak. Really one of the best game calls we've ever heard. And then Rafi Hayes' interview, "Small Ball is Dead" at USAU Club Nationals. It feels like it ignited the masses.
That's a good one. That's a good moment. Can I count? Oh no, I suddenly right when you're about to say something, you forget. What is the breakdancer, the Australian breakdancer everybody made fun of at the Olympics?
Ray Gunn.
Ray Gun. I was in my head. I was saying like laser something. Ray Gun. I saw so many Ray Gun celebrations this season that I feel like Ray Gun's breakdancing was like one of the biggest moments in Ultimate. It was unbelievable how much Ray Gun there was, especially at WUC. But I wouldn't really put that on the list. Will Brandt had that incredible layout catch, I think in semis at D3 Nationals that was like such a cool like player of the year moment. Like this is the star player, this is his moment, and like he's gonna make the incredible play, and like there's a certain iconography to that combination of events coming together that sits well with me. Do you remember the Jolie Krebs like self pass macked thing
Teammate
in
pass.
pool play. Yeah, like
She threw it, then she
she
slapped
threw
it
it
to a
and then it
teammate.
didn't go anywhere. Then she slapped it forward. It was like, wait,
Which,
can you
like,
do
how do
that?
you
There
even
was like
know
a
that's in
stop.
the rules?
We had to go look it up.
I would never have thought to
This
do
was like
that.
that was a good one. That was one of the silliest moments of the year. I think if you're going with big plays, the WBUCC greatest also could get in here because it was a part of beating a US team in a gold medal match. That's pretty sweet as well. But what to you is was the biggest moment of the year? I know what mine is. I'm firm.
For me, I'm going with the call. I'm going with Lepo's call on Cal Poly Slow over UNC Darkside.
I'm going same place, different game. The Don Colden catch is
Yeah.
everything that you want in an iconic sports moment. There's just it's just like 10 different narratives. You've got a player who has a chance to establish themselves as like one of the greatest to do it in this period, as one of the greatest college careers of all time, to help secure a record-setting title, in a second player of the year, each of those being their own separate awesome achievements. Also, it's a crazy upset against the team that wants revenge on you. It's a unlikely play, a wild moment, just everything there. It has so many different reasons for it to be a great moment. That's the moment for me that I'll remember the most in this year.
Okay, question for you about that. Do you think it adds to the moment or takes away from the moment that it was like a controversial strip call and the observers had to come in at the end?
I would say that detracts. You would just if it had just been a nice clean sky, I think that it would be all the more better for it. I guess it adds a little bit of like a pregnant pause, but like nobody likes watching a game end on a referee review, right? Like when you're watching a major pro sport, it's like, okay, we got to go to the review to decide if this was in. Uh, you want to just have the moment and have the sport happen. So that to me slightly detracts, but not enough for me to take this off the podium. As I mean, this to me is one of the greatest moments I've seen, period, in Ultimate. I mean, I was dumbfounded. And it's one of those things when I'm like, wow, I feel privileged to be here for this thing to happen. Uh, so that to me, you know, like the Dina catch, like this is the
I
kind of
was just going to
iconic
say.
moment that we're talking about.
Yeah, that final
This is.
point of
I feel
Dartmouth
like this one I'm going to
UCSD is
remember
yet to
forever.
see. Yep.
Yeah. Our last category here, Edward, and this should be a fun one. Who won the year? It could be a player. It could be a team. It could be any entity. I mean, we've if you we get Patrick Stegermeller in here, and it could start to be like esoteric concepts that maybe won the year, trends that won the year. Uh, who won 2024?
Was it the long ball?
The long ball
Think
might
about it.
definitely
Rhino,
wasn't small ball.
the Don Colton catch on Universe, the big throws coming out of D3 Nationals, wind chill bombing it after turnovers, after those inexplicable Carolina errors. I mean, Big Ball made a big comeback.
You could say that. I mean, then again, like everybody's still for trying to figure out how to play better small ball. Think about like we talked about the U.S. men's national team. Like, look at how they were playing. I mean, it was dink, 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 dink. We're getting you. I don't know. It's funny to me because I love the narrative of Rafi's declaration, but like it totally ignores the reality that their D line just dominated with small ball too. So, uh,
Right.
yeah, it's a good shout out though. It's a good shout out. Who else might have won this year? I mean, we've already big up Don Colton a bunch of times. Um, Someone brought up Anna Nazaroff, right?
Double champ.
Gets gets the champ, gets inducted into the Hall of Fame at the same time. That's a pretty sweet one. Claire Trope. Speaking of players who've been really dominant, I liked this one that came in from the Discord. this side, because this you gotta have deep ball knowledge to know this. Shayla Harris wins a club title with Fury, wins
Okay.
WUC, or
Okay.
coaches Stanford, who we already shouted out for their run at in the women's division at D1 College. So that's a pretty sweet trio to get to put together.
Yeah, that's pretty good for Shayla. I might pick Anna Nazarov over Shayla. Feels like it was Anna Nazarov and Rafi Hayes' year, if you ask me. Maybe Anna Thompson as well.
Well, I think there was another suggestion for Henry Ying having a big year.
Yeah, if you cut out
I
the
got some other
college.
ideas for you. Yeah, that's a tough scene. We talked about Will Brandt. Get the iconic moment. You get the pody. Wins a D3 title. Wins with the wind chill on the U24 team. So that's a pretty good run. The club season maybe
Doesn't make
lacking.
club nationals. Doesn't make club
Yeah,
nationals.
I feel like if they make club nationals, like you really put them in the conversation. How about French Ultimate? We talked about them having two of the biggest upsets of the
I
year.
like it.
I feel
That's
like
a good call,
this. Honestly, I think that's my pick. It's France. Like who we're talking about. We're about to have U24s. We're about to have World Games tryouts. I've seen Nasser and Bayvogel, French legend, in the chat, has been waving the Canadian flag in the chat. Or the French flag. Why did I say Canadian? The French flag.
I don't know.
We're about to have two huge international tournaments coming up in 2025. And the after the US, the team that people are going to be talking about is going to be France. After the way that they played in 2024, they're the US beaters. Nobody else has gotten that title. Japan's held it briefly. Canada's had it for their time. I shouldn't say briefly. Canada probably had it for a longer time. But like right now, it's France. If everybody's thinking about who's going to beat the US in 2025, it's France. It's because of how they played in 2024. I think I would take France, man, as they won the year in 2024.
I think you're way out over your skis. I don't think there's any way you can say France won 2024. As good as they were, as encouraging as they were, they did win a couple of one age limited event and one event that, I mean, you don't even like to walk on the sand. So I don't know that you can say France won the event when the US is still out here crushing most of everything. Although I agree they're a good answer. I think it's Anna Nazarov who, I mean, I think being such a good player at WUC, being such a good player winning a USAU club championship, and then, against any concept of what a Hall of Fame should be, still getting into the Hall of Fame in the prime of her career. Not the twilight, very much the prime with Nazarov. I think that's got to be it. I think it's Anna Nazarov winning the year.
I wanna pull up the case for Jade McLaughlin, who I don't think we mentioned, because I remember she got a shout out in the Discord that felt well deserved. But I want to make sure I have her resume in front of me, because she had Worlds. She won the Western Ultimate League. But I feel like last year was really the Jade McLaughlin year. I don't know.
It was sort of a
She had a
bridging
good
year, like it bridged two sides of the
Yeah.
calendar.
Well, that's what I fear could happen to France right here. Is that they're gonna also bridge. They had an awesome 2024, and then in 2025 they may make a little noise, like maybe they beat the US in one division or something, and then it's like it feels like their two awesome periods were split, but they didn't fall in the right part of the calendar. I feel like that we could see that take place. Yeah, I think getting into the hall actively is a pretty sweet achievement, but like, there's also part of it. It's like, does it feel like Ultimate America right now just like belongs to Claire Trope and Rafi Hayes? Like,
It does. It does.
are they the face of the league right now? Are they faces of the league right now?
Yeah, and they should be. Who is more fun to watch than those two? Who digs deeper in big moments than those two. I know Scandal didn't quite win, but Claire was awfully good in that final, and obviously through the whole season.
It's hard to pick, man. Claire Trope feels like she's established herself like already as like one of the great players to play the game. So, but that that's everybody you're accounting for more years than just 2024. So you can't totally divorce yourself from that. You're going with Anna Nazaroff. Maybe I should go with Dawn Colton for her achievements. We didn't really talk much about her. Um, I thought it was a pretty compelling case for Shayla Harris too. I thought it was pretty good, pretty interesting case too. Tough call. You've talked me out of France. Lame. Sorry, Nasser. Yeah, the club season makes me feel like it's hard for me. Like the same way you were like, yeah, but what about the college season for Henry Yang? Like the club season feels like it has that same effect, chilling effect for me on Dawn winning the year. So maybe I do want to go Shayla Harris here. I'm gonna go Shayla Harris. I just gotta make a pick. Shayla Harris, it is. I'm doing it. So that's gonna be my year winner. You can let us know in the chat who you think won the year, or in the Discord where those conversations are still ongoing, which our subscribers get access to. This is our final show, but we still have mailbag to go. We also got Send It Back. Those will be continuing. This week, we've got Noise and Dragon Thrust, the 2022 Club National semifinal. We'll have Robin Fennig and Caleb Denacor, two of just like the stalwarts now of the mixed division. Veteran players, tons of experience to bring to the game, and should be really fun to hear them talk about both the X's and O's and some of the fun stuff that they had to share from two teams that know each other very well in Madison Noise and Minneapolis Dragon Thrust. That'll be a good one. That's Thursday at 8:45 this week. You'll be able 8:45 Eastern to catch that live, and you can chat with them in the Discord. So be there, don't miss that. Edward, are you up for a little bit of mailbag here to wrap us up?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm taking over the mailbag again. This is my show. I get to ask questions if I want to ask. What's your favorite piece of Frisbee apparel that you own? Like individual items.
Well, I know what it was before Frontier Airlines on the way back from PAUC lost my bag, and it was my one of a kind, well, one of 15 anyway, reversible for my old club team, Athens Murmur, where I had George Michael's face on the front because our team theme song was Careless Whisper. And then on the back, down low, right across the butt cheeks area, it said Firmer when it hung down. And I don't think I can ever get back anything as good as that. But in terms of things that I still have, probably it's when I was a sophomore or junior in college, I walked past a table that had free hats and I'd lost my hat. And so I grabbed an orange visor from a pizza place in Athens, Georgia that was just there for free for the taking. And I think I'm on my sixth one now. It's 20 something years later. And I still wear an orange visor every time I play competitive Ultimate. It just feels like it puts me in the game. So yeah, right now it's one that's from Bandelier National Park in Bandelier National Monument, I guess it is, in New Mexico. And when that one retires, I'll replace it with a new one. But give me an orange visor.
Signature look, right? I mean, that is like an identifying marker for you. That's your Timmy Person orange hat, right? Like people know you as for that. I also am a person who I will wear the same piece of headgear, and I do like to wear a hat when I play. I will wear it until the wheels fall off, until it's literally falling apart, and then I've worn like maybe 3 or 4 hats for my 20 playing year career. Like that's I've been holding on to them. So I still have a Luna hat that I play in now from Emery Luna, which is gonna. I also have my favorite piece of gear The stuff that I have that I like the most is like you can't get anymore. Of the newer things, I do have a juice, an Emery Juice, white Marta style sun hoodie, which I really like the design on. It feels like I can wear it in normal settings, and I've had people, just random people, non-Frisbee people, comment that this is a nice piece of apparel. My only criticism is that the hood is way too big and has no drawstrings, and it constantly blows off. So if there's any wind, the hood just like is a sail. It just leaves my head. That keeps it from being my number one. My number one, 5 Ultimate used to make a zip up jacket hoodie kind of material, and it was off centered, which is very strange. So the zipper is not down the center, goes all the way up on like a third of your body, and so it comes up around your neck a little bit, which helps keep your neck warm when it's cold. But just like I have a black Emery Luna 5 Ultimate. I think they called it a quarter zip, but that's not an accurate description of what it is, or 3/4 zip or something. But it is like the perfect thickness. It never feels like it's too, like I feel like I can wear it in way colder temperatures than I should, but I can also wear it in way warmer temperatures than I should be able to wear a sun hoodie and be comfortable, or to wear a hoodie and be comfortable. Like I love this garment. It was an excellent design from 5. And I actually have grown to love the off-centered zipper too, because it's so unusual. I'm not sure I've ever seen another like zip up hoodie with the off-centered zipper. But if anybody else has one of these from 5 somewhere, it's got to be from like 15, 16 years ago. But it's a great piece of gear. That's definitely my favorite among the ones that I have. But that's gonna do it for a Deep Look in 2024. All that's left for us is a subscriber bonus segment, Out the Back. So we'll be talking out the back about the Texas snubs and maybe some more about under 24 snubs. If there's something to make of that, because it's generated a lot of conversation on our Discord. Edward and I will be in Discord. Maybe Charlie will be able there to join us. I don't know. But for all the folks who joined us for this year, 2024 has been awesome for Deep Look. We started doing these live shows here on YouTube, and it's been a really fun time hanging out with you guys. Hopefully 2025 is going to be even bigger and better. You'll catch Deep Look here live on YouTube Tuesdays at noon. We're going to take a couple weeks off, but we'll catch you again in 2025. Looking forward to seeing you there, folks. Much love to the fans. We appreciate y'all for real. Especially those who stick through the bump.